Everything you need to know in order to succeed in marriage, from practical advice to current events. This is the XO Podcast. Now here's your host, Brent Evans.
Welcome to the XO Podcast, everybody. And welcome everybody on Facebook. This is the first time we've ever pushed the live button for the podcast. We typically record these on Tuesdays, publish them on Thursdays. But we're so excited about the XO Conference this weekend. We wanted to share the love in what we're doing. We are completely sold out at the South Lake event. This is in South Lake, Texas. There's Gateway Church here in South Lake that's got 4,000 seats there. We're completely sold out. We've been sold out for a couple of weeks now. We have over 200 people on the waiting list. So for those people who are on the waiting list, or for those people who still want to come, we have multiple campuses of Gateway Church that are still open. We have simulcast locations all around the country. There's only 2 states so far that are not represented in Connecticut and New Hampshire. I'm sorry, guys. But we do have plenty of room at our host sites, and they really are all over the place. It's been exciting to see everyone who wants to come to the event. And at the live event, we'll have people from all around the world. We had a couple from South Africa. They're coming. They'll be there from all around the world. They're coming to be a part of it. So excited about this week. Leading up to the event, we've had special guests every week, starting with Jimmy Evans, my father, and the founder of MarriageToday. He was on the first week of the year. And so far, we've had all of our guests leading up to the event. Today, though, I am so excited. I told these guys they're the grand finale of the guests, the lineup at the event. Ryan and Frederick, how are y'all?
Good. How are you?
I always want to refer to you as the fierce marriage couple.
Yes.
We'll take it.
And I have a confession. For so long, when I first started following your ministry, all I knew was you were the fierce marriage couple. It took me a while to finally called you the Fredericks and learn names. But I've been following you for quite some time. So many people do. You're very popular on social media. Y'all have done a great job of building a ministry and the people you reach and everything you're doing. That's kind of why we're excited about having you a part of XO, is we feel like y'all bring a flavor to the event that is so needed. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and we're excited to go to XO as well.
Yeah,
it'll be a lot of fun.
It'll be good.
Anytime we can get out of the house, it's all good.
Yeah, we share the same situation with y'all have kids and you're traveling by yourself, so it's a vacation within a vacation.
Yeah. Yep. It's like a Valentine's Day weekend here.
Exactly.
Can't get any better.
We're good. So I definitely want y'all to tease just a little bit what you're going to be bringing to the conference. So y'all are speaking. There's a big lineup of people. Y'all are right in the middle of all the action.
Well, it's funny because once we got the email and we talked to you on the phone to kind of gear up for the session, we already felt almost immediately God kind of prompting us, I'll use that phrase, to share about essentially, so much of our platform is about transparency, and it's about being just open with each other in terms of just saying, being crystal clear in our communication and not having anything to hide and hiding nothing. And so, someone might expect that, but I think one of the biggest things that's transformed us is this idea of family vision. And that sounds a bit, I don't know. To me, it would be unconventional, but we've been mulling it over for the last 3 years, and we've talked about it on one of our own podcast episodes. Mm-hmm. And the idea behind it is basically living intentionally in light of the gospel, like because we know Jesus and because we're married underneath this like covenant idea that God created. Mm-hmm. How does that compel us to live intentionally? It's more the why, I think, behind why we're married, right? Mm-hmm. And why is it worth fighting for when it's hard? Right. I think that's the big question we want to answer. Mm-hmm. Is So
what are we fighting for in the midst of the craziness? Why is it? Why are we staying fierce through it all? What's the glue? How are we living? I mean, we could so easily just live distracted and purposeless lives.
Yeah.
But this really brings it together for us, this family vision. And we had, at one point, we had all these options to live somewhere, to start planning our roots somewhere. And we just kind of didn't know what to do with ourselves.
Right.
And we really wanted to live intentional. We knew that there were things that God had put in our hearts. And this is where it was all kind of birthed, as far as like having a vision, knowing where we wanted to go, because God had just been prompting things in our hearts.
Yeah, and it's very easy in the marriage sphere, right? Because Brent, you spend all your time, talking about marriage or working on marriage initiatives, right? And helping people. And so it's very easy to be caught up, and it's not bad, but to be caught up in the how. Like, how do we have a better communication? How do we have a better sex life? How do we have all these, like, how, give me the 5 steps. And those blog posts, I gotta be honest, those blog posts always do really well on social media because it's really clear, but so much of the how is dependent on the why. And
the why really fuels the how.
Exactly.
When you get tired and not wanting to do those things, it's like remembering why we're doing those.
Yeah.
Really
so we say fight for your marriage. Well, here's how.
Yeah.
Right. I think all of XO is about like fighting for your marriage in various ways, but I think what we really feel burdened to share is why is it? Why are you fighting for it?
The first conversation we had, Ryan on the phone, and Selena, you weren't on that call, but horses, Switzerland, health scare. This was kind of part of your story. I loved it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of drama and a lot of, just connecting in a different place. Unpack that for our audience. Kind of tell them a little bit. It's coming out in a new book called Fierce Marriage, and talk to them about your story. It's a brilliant story.
Well, we haven't, it's funny, Brent, but we haven't actually shared that story.
You guys are going to be the first. You're the first. No, we can share a little bit.
No, we can share it. Yeah. That's fine. Because we plan on talking about it a little bit. You only gave us 30 minutes, so that's on you. I'm just saying. That's fine. We only want 30 minutes. And so because we haven't honestly felt, I don't know how to
just the timing of it hasn't really come out.
I haven't felt the need or the green light yet to really kind of divulge it. We didn't really have the context to share it, and the book. So you mentioned our new book that's coming out. It comes out in April. It's called Fierce Marriage. It's our first traditionally published book, and we actually take the first 2 chapters and just unpack that entire story for people. And essentially that is the kind of the impetus for us creating a family vision that gave us one of the verses we've been studying over is Psalm 90:12. It says, teach us to number our days so that we may gain a heart of wisdom. And that situation in Switzerland, which the listeners are probably like, what are they talking about? Long story short, I almost died. And essentially that taught us to number our days.
Right.
And I think out of being literally we numbered our days, and it was less than 1.
Right. It was less than 1.
And by God's grace, obviously I didn't die.
Yeah.
But that gave us kind of a heart of wisdom. And I think from there, that's where the idea of family vision comes from. So 10 years later became so it took us wisdom doesn't just happen, unfortunately. So
but we can share anything. I mean, is there anything specific you want to
we're happy to go further.
We don't mean to part of the origin of this ministry was my parents' testimony, right? They almost divorced. They had a story to tell, and so many couples could connect with it. And I felt like when you were sharing your story, Ryan, I was connecting with the story, and it was something that, you built something through that I think a lot of people can appreciate, and it resonates with them. And I think that's what people are looking for is transparency, to be able to connect with you guys on a greater level. And that's why I love the story, but please don't share it now. Buy the book in April, listen to the story at XO conference.
No, we're going to share it when we that's why people should be there when it's part of our talk.
Yes. Yeah. It's such there's so many little facets to the story. Yeah. And so it's kind of impossible to do in any other form besides the written word. That's why we keep pushing people to the book, because we actually spend a good amount of time on it, and it's hopefully entertaining and not just this dry recantation of what happened. But
we were just talking about it today, and I started crying again. I was like, I can't do this.
15 years ago,
cry on
crying.
Stage.
I was almost crying when we were talking about it. Yeah.
So we might cry on stage just so everybody knows.
We need bottled water and some tissues.
Do y'all have a writer? I don't even know if y'all have a writer or not. Is it long? Do you have a long request for us?
We didn't have a writer. I was tempted to put together a really elaborate list of demands just to make someone laugh, but I didn't have the time. So.
It's okay.
No, we're excited to share for sure, because there was definitely some challenging moments in that, and even afterwards,
Oh my word!
Different person.
Yeah, because for the people listening here, we do apologize for not telling the full story, but essentially we went overseas after graduating from college, had a number of health things happen. I almost died, and we came face to face with this potential new reality of being, Selena being a widow.
It was right before our 2-year anniversary.
So it was right before our 2-year anniversary. And then the fallout of that event happening was a lot of I don't know, it was probably one of the driest seasons in our marriage, just because a lot had happened to me physiologically in terms of anesthesia and what that did to my brain, to be honest. And so I was a big jerk to you, to put it
well,
bluntly.
And you had some definite like spiritual battles that you were facing, like why God, why, for sure. It was a lot of reading apologetics and figuring out, how can this happen, and how could a good God allow this kind of stuff to happen? Some big questions. And you were kind of a jerk for a few years, I think. A year or two. I don't know.
I'll own it. But
I was able to, I got some fire.
Well, I've been listening to your podcast and it's great. Love it. Very good. I like that you're both on there. But one of the things I've appreciated is y'all are always asking each other, what are you listening to? What's in your hands? Can you tell our audience about that process that you go through?
Yeah. It's called our heart check. And we do what's in your hands, what's in your ears, and what's in your heart.
Yeah, what voice is in your ears?
Sorry, I'm not very articulate.
What book is in your hand? What voice is in your ear? And what's stirring in your heart?
Yeah, so we're always kind of asking each other, what book are you reading? What is God teaching you in that? And it's fun to share with each other. Our podcasts are like our date nights because the kids are not here to kind of interrupt. We get to talk about all things Jesus, all things marriage, things we're reading, things we're listening to.
Then we go out and have lunch together after.
And we have lunch, Those are kind of our date days. So it's been great and challenging because it's like you always want to bring something new that you're reading and that God's teaching you. And it's helped me want to explore like different podcasts. I'm kind of a creature of habit. I like to stay in certain comfort areas. And so exploring a little bit more and learning about what other people are sharing in terms of the gospel and marriage and even just womanhood and all of that. And the books are great. You are flying through different books and learning so much. And then I like the heart. So the heart, like what is God doing in your heart? You describe that.
Yeah. So what is he, as a result of what you're reading and what you're listening to, how is God stirring your heart and moving you to action? Because so many times we can just digest, especially like in the Netflix age, right? You just kind of binge read something or binge watch or listen and you just like, okay, that's done. And I just read a study the other day where it's like retention is there's no like short term, there's no long term like information retention because there's a whole bunch of psychological stuff behind it, but the main thing is like when the information wasn't accessible at all times, you had to, your body was and your mind was more used to like having to remember stuff. And nowadays we just know where to go to get it, right? We don't actually know the thing. We just know where to go to get the thing. And then Google.
That's exactly right. I know no phone numbers anymore. I used to know everybody's phone number. I know like one or two.
Yes.
And so the heart check that we do is kind of it's a way of connecting. Okay, so what, right? So you're reading this thing, you're listening to this thing. How is that actually affecting you?
Right.
And
each other. It helps us process.
Yeah, and it gives me a little window into what God is doing in your mind, and then he gives you a window into what God's doing in mine and in my heart. And so, yeah, that's been really helpful for us. Very elucidating in terms of like figuring out how your brain works and how you work, and vice versa. So,
y'all are very upfront about saying your marriage ministry is really about being gospel centered, and I feel like that defines who you are and makes you a little bit different in the marriage space. Can you talk about that a little bit more about your mission and why you do what you do?
Oh man, are you ready for this?
I'm ready for it. Bring it.
Yes.
I could talk for hours on this alone, but what else, right? What else? As we were kind of talking the pre-show stuff, or even just now, why? What's
why
the
we
point?
Call it fierce marriage, and why?
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of came. We have a fierce tenacity to never give up and never give in. But why do we have that? And I mean, it all boils down to Jesus.
And how's it even possible?
And yes, how is it even possible?
So when we first were starting, I'm interrupting. I'm sorry, but when we first started,
long-winded.
Yeah. I told that this is a passionate thing for me.
Okay.
When we first started Fierce Marriage, we went with a guy. We lived in Southern California at the time. We met with somebody who was also in marriage ministry, and he was a Christian, and he was like, "Wow, you guys are just really like forthcoming about like Jesus and the gospel." And I was like, "Well, I don't know how else to do it. I don't know how else to, because when you start talking about marriage, it's so intertwined with your heart." how can you separate the behavior from the belief?
Right.
And I'm a firm believer that you can't really. And so anytime you want to change a behavior, you can, what I call, and what we talk about is like stapling fruit on a tree, right? You want this to be an apple tree. So you just grab some apples from the store, you staple them to the branches, and it lasts, right? And you hope that it lasts, and they might hang there for a few weeks. Eventually they fall off, they rot. Until you change the root, until you change the belief, the tree is not going to change, right?
Good.
And so
Powerful.
Jesus is the foundation of any marriage that's going to be healthy. Now, we get a lot of people on our page, in particular on Facebook, because people love having opinions on Facebook. They will say, you say you have to have Christ, at the center of your marriage to have a healthy marriage, and my marriage is healthy. And I'm an atheist. People will say that. And, the only way I can reconcile that is that, God we have a very gracious God. And I think common grace is it's ubiquitous, right? Not just in all walks of life. And so, it's possible to have a marriage that is joyful, right? But to me, the greatest joy and the greatest ability to
experience it
and actually deal with the real stuff, and actually deal with these what I call like existential questions of marriage. You need a savior. You need Christ. Without him, it's just a matter of time. It's just a ticking time bomb. So
that's good.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that, Selena?
Oh,
do you have something to chime in?
I think, sorry, yes. No, I mean.
You said you were long-winded, but he's really the long-winded one. Go. Why don't you tag on to that?
He is, no, Fierce Marriage, I mean, it was kind of birthed out of, unfortunately, a number of friendships in our world and people close to us, their marriages ending before the 5-year mark, and maybe they remarrying or remarrying twice. And I'm not saying that is not that's a terrible thing. You shouldn't do that, because obviously God is a redeemer, restorer. He can rebuild everything. For us to see that, I think, so early on in marriage was very disheartening, and it caused us to question why are we still together? Why are we why are we working? Yeah. Even though I want to throw a sandwich at your head, why a hot one?
It's actually happened. Yeah.
Why do we want to make this work? Why do I even want to fight for this anymore? So. Again, it all comes back to Jesus. It always boils down.
Yeah, so we just made a commitment early on. I kind of put together this business plan, right? And
you tend to approach things with that.
Just for Selena, because I had to pitch her, because I can't do this. Well, I think you're the CEO, right? Anyway, so I bring you this idea, and I'm like, I think God is calling us to start this marriage blog, and you were, of course, on board and totally enthusiastic about it. But we made a commitment from that point to always, if someone's going to give us their ear and listen to what we have to say, or they're going to give us their eyes and read something we've written, then we're going to use that opportunity to present the gospel. And marriage is really just an avenue, because we're called as followers of Christ to. We're commissioned, right? We're into the mission. And so we don't want to waste an opportunity if someone's going to let us talk to them. And so that's why Jesus is kind of plastered everywhere.
That's good. I love it. That's good. Praise God for that. Hey, we're talking to Ryan and Selena Frederick. This is the Facebook Live audience out there. And I was thinking about today, we celebrate proposals, engagements, weddings, honeymoons are all celebration. And then we don't celebrate anymore, really, in marriage. It seems like after all those celebration points, there's an anniversary that comes up, but really the EXO conference is hopefully a time for people can celebrate, some of the wins. And I hope that when they walk away from your session, they feel like they can take something away from your session and apply it to their marriage, and it grows their relationship in a godly way. I think it's going to be fantastic. So excited about y'all's session. We're going to take some questions from Facebook. Is that good for y'all?
Awesome.
Yeah, let's do it.
Got some time? Okay. Julie says, I have a question. I have been married for 17 years and was curious about trust issues regarding coworkers in the workplace. I do not like women being too friendly to my husband. Is there something wrong with me being protective of my marriage and my man?
That's a good question. Actually, we just answered one of those, a similar question in our last podcast. And so I only say that to let you know that you're not alone.
Right. This is very happens a lot.
This is a very common concern that husbands and wives share for various reasons. That's actually a different angle, being concerned on behalf of your husband, right? So our policy, I'll just say this, our policy with the opposite sex is, windows and doors wide open, no secrets,
lights on,
no conversations happening. I have, because we're self-employed, we have a number of people that kind of work with us and for us. And, one of my main, Shannon is our account manager for, I won't get into it, but there's a lot of, we just don't, I don't have meetings with Shannon alone. I very rarely will just text her if it's work related. And a lot of times if something like that's happening, then I will communicate very extra vigilantly with Selena about that. Just leave no room for it. Now that's something that I've taken it upon myself.
Yeah.
Now, if I didn't do that willingly, what would you do?
Well, and I think that's the question is, what's the interaction that you're concerned about? What are you, where is this fear coming from? Kind of digging deep into the why. Why are you feeling this way? Is he acting differently when he comes home, or do you see him at work acting differently if you stop by and have lunch, or what's the root of this concern? Because maybe there's other issues that are just coming up, and this is the issue, but it's not the real issue, right? You're dealing with some trust issues. Maybe there's some things that maybe God's stirring in your heart, and you're afraid of something, and the first step would just be to bring it to your husband too and say, I'm not trying to attack you or anything. These are just things that I am feeling. I don't know why I'm feeling them. Can you help me walk through this? Unless there are some indications of interaction outside of the workplace that seem inappropriate, then that's a whole nother conversation. But I guess I would encourage you to dig deep, and also to go to your husband and just have an open conversation, and lay that foundation of, I'm just dealing with some of these things. Can you please help me walk through this? It's probably nothing, but I'm having trouble. And he knows you. He knows your past. He knows if you've had, trust broken in big ways. So
that's good. And as a husband, he clearly also has a role to play in that, meaning that he needs to be, I think all husbands should be willing to have those hard conversations and make adjustments to assuage your worries or your fears, and also to talk to you in a loving way without dismissing what you're feeling.
Totally.
You said, it's one thing she can say is it's not likely that there's a problem, but I can say I think there's a good chance of it. So anyway, just be transparent, have good conversations around it.
It's good answers. Julie, I hope you enjoy that answer. Danita has said here on Facebook, what can you do if you and your husband don't agree on issues related to raising children? For instance, what their sleeping cycle schedule is, or other things like that. What happens if you have disagreements with your husband about how to raise the children?
You're just giving us the easy ones.
No, because I think gosh. That's really.
Go ahead.
Y'all have young kids. Y'all have conversations about that?
No, it's hard. We've
had some arguments around this recently.
It feels like it's an indication of priorities, right? Like if you're just trying to appease, take care of, make sure everything's okay with them, and then you might feel rejected or not a priority,
right?
In certain ways. And so why are you feeling the way that you're feeling, and why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? I think it's good to get those things out there in the clear. And understand that, gosh, it's so hard. There's just these loving boundaries that you have to learn in terms of parenting. And I'm not saying we have that down, because we're only 4 years into this.
This is weird though, because parenting is hard.
Kids are little human beings and little souls. They're not just
there's so many cultural things that are superimposed on top of it, right? So
your kid should sleep like this. They should eat at this time. They should do these things. And it's what if these don't work for my kids? What if they don't work for my family?
And none of it's biblical, and it's all cultural, right? And so there's some biblical things in terms of raising kids. That's raise them up in the way of the Lord, teach them about Jesus, all that stuff. Those are non-negotiables. Now everything else, this is where we call this a non-core issue disagreement, right? It's not a core thing. You can disagree about it. It can cause some heated arguments, but at the end of the day, someone can compromise and you'll be fine, right? And so the task in a marriage is to find that area of compromise. And part of finding that compromise for us is recognizing the cultural things that are being unduly, they're bearing undue weight on your marriage. So, I know for kids, just a quick example, sleeping, right? So some people are all about co-sleeping. Other people are all about having the kids cry it out, right?
Or not being in your bed or anything like that.
They should always be in their bed by themselves. And that's how you raise an adjusted youth. And if you do it the other way, then you're
in for it.
The most evil person on the planet. And people are so polarizing, right? But neither of those things are discussed at great length in the Bible.
Right.
Neither of those things bear any real weight on So it's like, you have to use wisdom, you have to apply insight, and you have to talk through it.
Yeah. Know your kid and know your family and know what works for you guys and know that it's temporary. I mean, some of these issues they just grow out of them. There's some stuff is hard and other stuff not so much.
So seeking agreement, knowing that if one wanted, if one parent was have a different faith and wanted to take them to a different, that would be a non-negotiable. But since we're, obviously we agree on our faith, and if you agree on your faith, then that's a firm foundation that you can talk through everything else. So
kids are a blessing, but they are exhausting. It's never ending. So I feel like whenever Stephanie, my wife, and I have unity on something, it makes the job so much easier.
Yes.
But finding that unity is so challenging because I also think you bring in things from your past, like the way your parents raised you. That's the way you feel like they should be raised. And my wife and I are having conversations about public school versus private school and what that looks like, because I went to a private school, she went to a public school. And we're resolving those based upon what our values are. Like, what do we want out of life? And and those are hard discussions, but I feel like if you're divided all the time, it just makes the job even more challenging. And kids, they're 24/7. They're always looking for ways to divide you and to tackle you. And
they're little sanctifying machines.
They are.
So that's a great discussion on that. Okay, so Misty says here, I brought in baggage from the very beginning when we were dating, and a year later we got married. Because I came from a broken home, I did not validate my husband's role as a father to our children, and that in turn caused resentment to develop. How can we start regaining that trust again?
I guess some assurance. We all bring baggage into our marriages. That's just kind of the nature of human, sinful, broken beings. My parents are divorced, so I came from a broken home, and so just rest assured, I guess, Misty, that you're not alone. We all bring baggage into this. You didn't rush into anything. I think that. I don't know
how we worked through it, because you've definitely, we've had some conversations where I felt like because your dad wasn't in your life.
Right. There's things that have been rooted in me that come out in my marriage, like, Ryan, why are you yelling at me? And he's like, I'm not yelling at you. I'm just having a firm conversation with you. And there's just, why aren't you, I don't know. I don't resent you. I'm just so grateful for the dad that you are to our kids. So dealing with resentment and that, I would encourge.
It depends on how the resentment works itself out.
Yeah.
Right? So for you were pretty well, your dad, your mom got divorced when you were pretty young. You were.
I was 8.
8, relatively young. I mean, I guess that's like that. I don't know. Is there a too young of an age, right? And so, but you were able to compartmentalize it in a way that is almost like we've had to talk through a lot of that because you never really dealt with it. And so we're in our 15th year of marriage, and we're still talking about how has that created gaps in our understanding of what it means to love. And go ahead.
God is so good and gracious too to fill in those gaps. You feel like you want to start over, but I think the best place to go is just go, start where you are, and go where the fire is. If you're feeling like, I'm resenting my husband and I'm not able to say how grateful I am to him. Why can't you? Why are you saying that? Why is that a struggle for you? How can you resolve this? And maybe resolving it is saying one thing a day that you're grateful to him for. Maybe it is going to counseling and dealing with some of these things. We all are broken. We all are bringing these things into our marriage, and it just kind of all depends, I think, on where you want to start. And it's okay to struggle where you're at. It's okay to. We don't have a perfect marriage, nobody does. So I guess rest assured that we're all broken. We're all coming into this.
I think
start where you are
and communicate through it.
Yeah.
So communication will almost always get to the bottom of it, right? If you were just able to talk about it. The reason why you need a counselor, godly counsel, is for someone to help you to actually reveal some of the stuff that's happening, because you both may not understand
when you're
what's
in it. You
happening
can't
in
always see
communication.
it. Yeah, absolutely.
And so it always comes down to that, and certainly get help if you feel like you need it, but it starts by just having a candid conversation.
Yeah. Does that answer all the questions? I'm not sure I heard the last part.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I think y'all really did talk through that answer very well. Tim Ross was on the podcast a couple weeks ago, And he said people need two things: a good counselor and a good massage therapist. And I think that most people need to talk through these things. And I'm assuming that this woman may have maybe something that's maybe too much for her husband to handle. She needs to have a good counselor or pastor in her life to kind of walk her through some healing, so that she can approach her husband with things that are in a healthy way. You know how it is whenever you're fighting, all that mess comes back up. You're just kind of regurgitating all these old things, and you're wanting to break that cycle, and you're wanting your husband to feel like he can trust you in an environment where you're not going to be like a porcupine every time there's a fight and pull out the switchblade. Okay, this is a good question for y'all. This is the last question. And I feel like in the season that we're in, I want to hear your answer on this. With kids and with the, we talked about them always kind of needing our attention. How do you keep the passion and intimacy alive? How are you guys investing in that in your own marriage to, really keep it going?
I don't know. We bought a cage with really thick locks. I'm kidding.
No.
Can you send me the link to that one?
I'll send you an Amazon link.
When we had one and she was young and at that right age where she could watch a TV show for like 15, 20 minutes, we took those opportunities. We knew she was safe. She was less than 10 feet away, but a door was closed, of course. So I feel like you have to get a little more creative when you have young kids in the house, because they will kill themselves probably or get into hurt, and they'll get into stuff without you. You have to make sure they're safe. We keeping the passion. I mean, we have a frequency that we try to hit.
Yeah. So it's being very intentional about what healthy intimacy looks like for you. In your marriage. For us, we've discussed a healthy frequency. We have some blog posts on this on our website, but we've kind of settled on every 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3, 4 days is kind of like about right for us just to stay connected. And so we both know when our opportunities are going to kind of fall within that rhythm. And then we've, then it's just a matter of finding those opportunities. Right. And so part of it though, and this could be a whole different podcast episode in itself, but when it comes to intimacy, right, you have different modes of intimacy or different attitudes toward it. Right. So you have what we would call like the freight train sex, which is like takes a long time to get going, but takes a long time to slow down, right? And you have like the sports car, it's like A to B as fast as possible, done. You're everything, it's all fast and easy. Put it that way.
Those are good analogies. I got it. Picture perfect.
It's quality, not quantity.
Yeah. Right. So, but because when you have kids, you can just fall into the habit of just always doing the sports car thing, right? Where it's just, and you lose the sense like, oh wow, this is supposed to be an adventure. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be something that builds intimacy, and it's supposed to be interesting.
Ignite the passion and
And so we've recently, because we have these, this isn't supposed to be plugs, I'm sorry, but we went through our books called the 31-Day Pursuit Challenge. We went through those with our Fierce Marriage community. And I learned that one of the ways that, you learned, one of the ways that you can show love on kind of a monthly basis. Now intimacy is happening regularly, but monthly we want to have time to actually let things happen. Right. We want to give ourselves like enough breathing room, so to speak. And so what that means for us is we have a babysitter kind of on call, and at least once a month we're going to schedule at least.
Send them to grandparents' house or, get the kids out of the house and be creative and strategic and be intentional about that.
And light a candle, don't be afraid to, have a little bit of romance in there,
Yes.
And then, so anyway, to answer that question, it's very easy just to fall into that rhythm of like, okay, we did it, done, check it off the list. But one of the ways we've explored to really keep the passion and not just the functional aspect of it alive is to actually create, just know that you both on the same page about making that happen.
And be intentional and delighting in that. So
Great answers, guys. You knocked them out of the park.
We passed the test.
Oh, good.
Passed the test.
We can still come.
You still have you still have your plane tickets. We didn't cancel them. No, we're so excited about having you here. I do want to. You're fine with plugging the book. I think those are excellent resources for everyone. They can find you at fiercemarriage.com. Follow you on social at Fierce Marriage. Anything else that we can give our audience to kind of help connect with you?
We have our podcast. So if you just go to fiercemarriage.com/podcast, you'll find all the links there. That's kind of our steady flow of content right now. Our blog is going to be more writing in the coming months, but most of the recent stuff has been just through the podcast.
Right. And you can write in questions. You can call. We have voicemails.
Yeah. We're on Instagram, which I think a lot of people enjoy. We do have a number of books available. If you go to and if you're a husband or a wife and you're looking for a real, like, more in-depth conversation that's specific to husbands and specific to wives, search Facebook for, we have 2 private groups, or they're closed groups, Fierce Husbands and Fierce Wives. And you can just search Facebook for those, and there's a lot of really quality interaction happening there. But yeah, and we do have, like you mentioned, this is the big thing. We have our big book coming out in about 3 months or 2 months now. Holy cow.
Flying by, guys.
Yeah. But we're going to be talking about that a lot more in the coming weeks and months. In fact, you want us to shut up about it. So we'll just say for now, it's called Fierce Marriage. You can pre-order it, and there's some pre-order.
Is that you doing the guitar riff on the podcast in the beginning? It's great.
Yeah, no.
It's a great open. It's very catchy.
Thank you.
So, no, great. Thanks for being a part of this today. It's been such a treat to have you on here. Looking forward to seeing you live in person Friday. And I know you have some friends that are coming to the Willises. Do y'all know Dave and Ashley Willis?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we know Dave and Ashley, not in person. Jeff Bethke, he's going to be there. He was a friend of ours before any of the, his stuff happened. He just kind of blew up.
He's a Pacific Northwesterner as well.
Yeah, he's from our hometown, and we knew him. So I'm looking forward, hopefully, to connect with him. He's kind of hard to pin down, but anyway, yeah. And I think there's a few others that, a few other people we know a little bit. Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. I'll probably grab y'all to do a live podcast at the event so people can see you there live and get a glimpse into your session a little bit more. It's going to be awesome. Okay. Well, also go to xomarriage.com. Look for a host site. If you can't make it to the live event, that's okay. We want to see a host site. The Fredericks will be there live. You'll be able to see their session if you're a part of the event. Hope you do check that out. Also, subscribe to our feed as well, xomarriage.com/podcast. Tell your friends. Thank you, Facebook Live audience. I hope you've enjoyed it. We will see you this weekend. XO Marriage Conference 2018 will be live all throughout the week there. Jimmy Evans, Miles McPherson, Craig Rochelle, the Fredericks, of course. And we'll see you soon this weekend. Thanks, everyone.